So, of course, we have to start with the Hunter Biden indictment from this week. So, Hunter Biden, the president's son, was indicted on 9 counts, 6 misdemeanors, and 3 felony counts of tax evasion and tax fraud for not paying about $1.4 million in taxes on $7 million of income between the years 2016 to 2020. Now, since that period of time, Hunter Biden has paid back that money to the federal government. However, these charges have been brought by the special counsel, which was appointed by President Trump, our special counsel Weiss, who was appointed for the case in Delaware, where Hunter Biden's also been charged, faces gun charges relating to him buying a gun and lying on an application back in 2018, saying that he was not addicted to drugs, when indeed he was addicted to drugs while buying this firearm, which you are not allowed to do. However, those cases may be overturned by the Supreme Court, because that may or may not be constitutional. So with that, the interesting part is, so Hunter Biden could be facing up to 17 years in prison. We all know that rich white people for tax charges do not go to prison for 17 years. But I think that the entire conceptualization around this charging document was to try to force Hunter Biden into a plea deal. The reason for that is the nature and the structure of this charging document is not meant to further the case, but to further public embarrassment. Think back to the conversation we had a couple weeks ago about the Sean Puffy Combs versus Cassandra Ventura case, where the nature of the drafting of the pleadings was such that was meant to bring a significant and sufficient amount of public embarrassment that it became easier to settle the case than to actually try to litigate it out, regardless of the innocence or guilt of either party, regardless of the truth or untruth of the allegations. It's still simply ends up being easier to avoid the public embarrassment and the loss of additional funding and opportunities to simply plead these things out. And I think that's what they're doing here, because there's actually no reason for Weiss to enumerate what Hunter Biden was spending money on instead of paying his taxes. And Weiss goes on to really lay out that Hunter Biden spent thousands of dollars, indeed millions of dollars, on drugs, escorts, girlfriends, luxury hotels, rental properties, exotic cars, clothing, and other items of a personal nature instead of paying his taxes. And so, is that necessary? No, all you have to do is say Hunter Biden didn't pay his taxes as a short, plain statement of the facts, which is all that is required by the statute. This is meant to put Hunter Biden in a position where the feds can say to him, look, more of this information will come out. We will hurt you more professionally. You still are in your early 50s. You have to figure out how you're going to support yourself hereafter. And we're going to continue to release more information of a damning nature, whether it's something that can we can actually prove or not. We're simply trying to force you into a plea agreement. Here, they also said that Biden placed women with whom he had romantic or sexual liaisons on the payroll of one of his companies, and a $10,000 payment listed as being a golf membership deposit was in fact for membership of a sex club. So, as I said, Hunter Biden was a full-blown city boy. I mean, he was out here living life. He was out here doing the things. Like, Hunter Biden was living like an 80s rock star. He was having him a good old time out there. And many people think that the reason for his descent and his spiral was the death of his brother, Beau Biden. And that after Beau died, the pressure on Hunter caused him to relapse into drug addiction. That drug addiction led him to go on this years-long spending and drug binge that resulted in these current charges against him. What we're seeing, however, is that in this indictment, Hunter Biden has not been tied to Joe Biden in any way, shape, or form. Despite that, Republicans are expected in the next week to vote on impeachment charges against President Biden. The launch of a formal impeachment inquiry does not mean that President Biden will be impeached, but it's the first formality and the first formal step that the Republicans have to take in order to be able to do so. Now, is there a reason for President Biden to be impeached? No. But President Trump has said from the beginning he wanted President Biden impeached. President Trump does not like the fact that he was impeached twice, and he wants that same stain to go on to the next president after him. He's trying to make it seem that he's not the corrupt one, that the entire system is corrupt, and therefore he should not face the harsh judgment of history for being only the third president to ever be impeached. He's trying to devalue the conceptualization of impeachment. He's trying to turn into something which is just par for the course. Think about a congressional censure, which used to be one of the most grievous things that could go on the record of any elected official, to be censured by the body that you are a member of. Well, now that's all but meaningless. Nobody cares if you've been censured by your colleagues. I know it's just a partisan tool. They censured Jamal Bowman this week, the congressman who pulled the fire alarm at the Capitol during the vote. Republicans did that because since they voted out George Santos, they needed to go tit for tat and do something to a Democrat to make it seem that we are playing on an even playing field. So you censured Jamal Bowman as retribution for what they did to George Santos. Similarly, they threw Marjorie Taylor Greene off of all of her committees for being anti-Semitic and racist when she got to Congress. So Rashida Tlaib, the Palestinian American congresswoman, they censured her and tried to remove her and Ilhan Omar from her committees, or from their committees, because they need to go tit for tat on that. So it's likely that despite the Republican majority shrinking, they will try to move forward with an impeachment inquiry on President Biden leading into the re-election year. The interesting part of this is that with the expulsion of George Santos, the Republican majority drops down to 3. With the resignation or retirement of Kevin McCarthy at the end of the year, the Republican majority drops down to 2. There's another congressman from Ohio who is retiring to become the dean of a college in Ohio, which will drop the Republican majority down to 1. So it's actually a bit trepidatious for Republicans to attempt to launch an impeachment inquiry when indeed there's a very strong possibility that they could lose their majority altogether, even prior to the next election. So with the Santos seat, with the McCarthy seat, the governors will call special elections. In the Santos seat, more than likely a Democrat will win that special election, being that he was in a very competitive district in the first place. Kevin McCarthy in Bakersfield, California, that seat will more likely be filled by another Republican, but it may take between 6 and 9 weeks before you can even think about scheduling a vote, and the new congressperson might not be seated until this summer. If anything happens in the interceding period of time, remember, we have a lot of very, very elderly members of Congress. Democrats could indeed wrest away a majority, vote out Speaker Johnson, install Hakeem Jeffries as Speaker of the House, and then get rid of the rules and end the impeachment inquiry. These are all possibilities that could occur. So the Republican game that they're playing currently is kind of a nonsense game, because by trying to make Hunter Biden the case, by trying to make Hunter Biden the center of American politics, what they're forgetting is that the American people will respond better to you actually doing some work as opposed to playing all these political games. We're going to talk more about this after the break. Call in 404-726-1380 News and Talk 1380 WAOK.